Hi there, my name is Dani Beaumont, and I'm a Principal Product Manager on the Adobe XD team. And we're going to focus on another Adobe XD tips and tricks today. I'm going to confirm that everyone is live and up. Excellent. So I really like the I like the Facebook Live sessions because rather than a really quick recording where I show off a feature, I can take some time and just dive in more deeply on that feature. I love symbols. I honestly have been at Adobe and worked on a number of products, and I love the symbol workflow that we've implemented with XD and its elegance and simplicity. But there's a lot of hidden capabilities that you may not realize that I'd like to go through in this next half hour that we have together. So let me go ahead and switch over my screen to the application in XD. And we're just going to start with the basics of symbols, which have been around for quite some time. But we've added enhancements at just Adobe MAX a few weeks ago that I'm going to segue over to. So let's just take things, though, a little bit from the top, basically. So a symbol allows you to take an element that you know is going to reoccur in a project and reuse it over and over again by having that master symbol instance. So if I were to come in, let's say I'm working on a project here and I've got 3 different layouts. And when I repeat, for example, the navigation at the top of my screen, I may want to come in and actually grab some navigation elements that I'll define as a symbol to reuse. So you'll notice here on my desktop layout, I've got a header that I've defined, and I haven't applied that to all of the other artboards here for the desktop, and I want to do that. Now, of course, I can come in and just copy and paste it on all of those other instances, but the downside is if I notice I want to change one aspect, I'd have to go in and repeat that process. If I convert it to a symbol, I can have basically one source instance that repeats, and if I make a change to that source instance, it will propagate through. So when I zoom in on these elements, what you'll notice is there's a couple of pieces. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Layers panel so I can take a look at these elements. And as I click on in, just a few things are true here. I've got this header element. To begin with, as we're working, these are, as I mentioned, I'm going to kind of use a bit of an inside voice and tell you some of the nuances with the features that we demonstrate. So one thing I want to do here is just actually ungroup some of these elements. So this one is grouped. I'm going to start with it ungrouped. So to do that, I can come in and click on anything that is grouped. I think these 2 are grouped here. And I can go to the right mouse menu here and select ungroup or group, depending on what I've got going on. I can also hit Shift, Command, or Control G, which will toggle the grouping on and off for an object. I'm also going to, let's just dig out here a little bit. So I've got just some basic elements. Nothing is really grouped at this point. What I want to do is come in and select them. So I'll just press and drag to select all of these elements. I've locked the background image so I don't select that accidentally. And I'm ready to make this a symbol. To do that, I can pull down under Object and select Make Symbol. I can also right-click on those objects and select Make Symbol here. I can hit the Control key or Command key here, Command or Control K, which will make that a symbol. I'm going to go with the keyboard command. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the menu here now that I'm here. So I'll go ahead and select Make Symbol. And notice in my Layers panel, I now have basically that item as a symbol. I can give it a friendly name over here, so I might want to call this header desktop. We'll just do this. And hit Enter. If I toggle over now to my Assets panel, so I'm in the Layers panel, but if I click in that lower left-hand area, you'll notice that that header that I just defined is here as well. So if I want to try to connect these guys together, if I right-click on this object and say Reveal Symbol in the Assets panel, you can see it's named number 3 here. It's the 3rd symbol that I've created here as I was practicing today. I'm going to come in and assign that same name here in the Symbols panel so that I know where it is again. And for that, I'll go ahead and double-click, and I'll call that header desktop pretty much the same name that I assigned to it as a group. All right, so now that I have that defined as a symbol, what I can do is come in and reuse it. So to do the reusing, I can, proper English there, I can just press and drag another copy. So I can drag it off. Let's see if I do that the right way. So if I select this guy and press and drag another copy off, I can also just duplicate it. So if I copy it on the clipboard and then paste, I can paste a second instance. There's also a nice feature that we added in XD some time ago where I can come in and select that first instance and copy it to the clipboard with Command or Control C. And then I can just select any artboards that I want to apply that header content to. And when I hit Command or Control V, I can paste, and it pastes to all of the selected artboards in that same location. So I now have multiple versions of this particular element. Let's kind of focus in a little bit here. I'm going to just paste it up on the side here so that we can kind of keep an eye on some of the things that we're doing. If I come in and duplicate this object now a few times, let's try that. I have the ability to do a couple things. One is that I can override the text that I have or any background images that I might have applied. For those of you that are let me speak clearly. For those of you that are already working with symbols, you may know that there's some features that we need to still add with symbols. I do have the ability to override text and background images or images that I use in the symbol. But for example, I can't resize the symbol to different sizes without affecting all of the symbol instances. So if I did want to come in and affect an override here, I could come to the word real. And if I just zoom in on this to make it a little easier to see, I might come in and call this the other real. And you'll notice that that change that I'm making is only applied to that first symbol instance. It does bring up something that I notice is wrong with all of my symbols, which is that content there, it's basically aligning to the left. So what I want to do is come on into this object and change that alignment so that it works a bit better. I'm going to move it to the center. Notice how I'm kind of making things a little annoyed here. Before I do that, with it selected, I'll come on in and center that text. And now I'm going to come in and move the content to the center. So as you can see, any instance of a symbol that's on the canvas, if I make changes to that instance, it's going to update all of those symbols. Now, let's say as I'm working, I decide I no longer want it to be a symbol. I'd like to detach it from that original symbol. I can do that by coming into an object and right-clicking on it and basically asking it to be ungrouped. So ungroup symbol really detaches it as a symbol and makes it just a separate set of objects. Okay? So nice feature there. If you get to where, let's say you decide you want a variation of this design, and in that variation you want to create another symbol. Another thing that's interesting to keep in mind is if you've started working with the responsive resize feature that we delivered, I believe it was 2 releases ago, responsive resize is not yet fully compatible with symbols. So let me kind of show you this a little bit in action. I'm going to get rid of that third symbol, and we'll go up to this first one. If you remember, I came in and made this normal content once again. So if I come into this object, let's try to grab everybody together. If I come in and select all of these objects, I can come to the edge and I can press and drag, and I get a nice responsive resize behavior. So that's working nicely. In theory, I could come in and resize this for a tablet layout or a mobile layout if I wanted to reuse that design. Now that's working well. If I come up to the symbol object, notice that responsive resize is enabled there on the right-hand side, but it's not allowing me to resize. I don't have those resize handles. This is because we have not basically engineered the work to allow you to resize symbols as a full group set. There's a nice workaround for that I would like to share with you for a moment, though. If I come to this object, so let's again come on in and duplicate it, and I'm going to detach it so it's no longer a symbol. So I'm going to ungroup that symbol. What I want to do is come to individual items here and just clicking on them, I am going to save those out as symbols. So I'm hitting that Command or Control K feature. So I'm making these individual symbols. And if you're looking in the list there on the left, as I add each of these, they're starting to be added to the list as separate symbol elements. I can grab my little hamburger menu that's here as well, make sure I have that at the root level, and make that a symbol. And the world is all pretty good. What I've done is, in essence, made those symbols, but as I now come in and select the group of individual symbols in this case, I can press and grab and get that responsive resize behavior. So it allows me to, it's kind of a compromise. It allows me to have some elements that are symbol components that I can still work with the responsive resize feature, but take advantage of some aspects of that symbol capability. So let's say as I'm working, I do want to come into this work, and I'm going to go ahead and show this a little bit more. I'll come in and duplicate this guy so that we can keep an eye on some of the changes that I'm making. One other feature that we allow you to implement with symbols is if you have other symbols that you would like to replace some existing symbols, you can do that right there on the design canvas. So let's say as I'm working, I do have this collection of objects, and I want to retain the responsive resize behavior, but I want to be able to change some of the symbol attributes to this larger group of objects. I could come in and grab a different symbol and just replace it on the design canvas by dragging one symbol on top of the other. So for this, I'm going to zoom in a little more tightly, and I'll come on into that circle symbol that I have here. I'm just going to press and drag that. Notice that I get a plus sign, and if I pause too long, it actually places. So I'm going to try to do that again. I'm going to come right up on it, and I'm going to get inside that symbol. And notice when I do that, that plus sign is now an arrow. It's letting me know that I can come in and replace that symbol. So what that would do is notice how it replaced not just one instance there, but all of the instances of the symbol. So kind of in summary, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but if you're a big fan of symbols and you're a big fan of responsive resize, and you were disappointed to realize that you can't take a complex grouped symbol and have it behave responsively, there is a backdoor that allows you to come in and just break it out as individual symbols. You have the ability to update and adjust each of those individual symbols and still have it remain as a responsive component. Okay. I do have some notes to keep me on track here. So we're going to go on to talk now a little bit more about complex symbols in some new features that we delivered at Max. And that is the ability to come in and create a master symbol that is shared by yourself if you work on multiple projects and you like to keep things neat and tidy, or shared by a team. Let's say in your group, you are the designer that's responsible for UI elements for a client, but you want to make sure that your colleagues are always relying on the latest version of that particular UI set. You can basically define a master set of symbols that are easily shared by yourself across projects or by others across projects. So let me explain that a little bit. I'm going to come on in. We'll leave this content here in case we need it a little bit later on. And we'll go back to our design. Now, I'm looking at a pretty complex design if you've ever seen this real asset in the past. It's got a whole lot of content that's here. And as I'm sure you know if you use XD, because XD allows you to do so many things, presentations, wireframes, laying out multiple objects, thousands of artboards in fact, you can end up with a pretty complex project. And it can be hard to find some of the content that you have placed on those objects and keep them neat and clean. We're going to talk, well, let me just go ahead and show you some of this. Number one, as you're working, if you want to keep track of symbols that you do have in your project, there's a couple ways you can do that. One is to come into the Assets panel to an individual symbol, and if I right-click here, I can highlight instances of this symbol on the canvas. Now I'm zoomed out, and that particular symbol is actually not in use, which it let me know. Let's try that circle symbol, highlight on canvas. It's incredibly subtle, so I'm going to zoom in here. But notice that I get a blue highlight that is showing me where that symbol does occur across many projects, or across many artboards in this case. Inversely, as I'm working, if I'm wondering if a symbol that I have is still in use and should be retained with the project, I can come to that symbol on the design canvas and right-click to find it in the Assets panel. So if I look here, let's see, Reveal Symbol in Assets, it's going to let me know where it exists there on the left. So I can find it either on the design canvas or in the symbols library as I'm working. But nonetheless, this can still be a lot to kind of maintain a set of symbols in with my project. So the new linked symbol workflow allows me to separate out my symbols from my active working project. If I switch here in my window to another XD file that I have what's known as a design system. And if you're new to experience design or UI design, you may want to read up a little bit on design systems. It's a powerful concept that allows you to work with teams, work with multiple projects, and come up with also what's known as a brand kit. So I've got a couple of links that I think will throw into the chat here to some examples of brand kits that are out there. It looks like we've got a question from Anwar Hussein. What about image resolution? So I probably am catching that a little bit out of context now. When you say image resolution, I'm not sure I'm following. So if I place an image in my design and scale that image or work with it, it will retain that source resolution for that file. If I define it as a symbol, it's going to retain the resolution. So if you want to throw me, happy Diwali in India, by the way. If you want to throw me that question a little bit more, if there's any clarifying details, I'll keep an eye on chat. I can see it here directly in Facebook Live. So I'll keep an eye on that. Just give me a little bit more details about what you're wondering. So in this brand kit that I have, or basically it's also known as, as sticker sheets, although I don't think that's as common. The idea is that I can pull from this list as I'm working. So notice that I have down here some different treatments for navigation. I've got, it's all very dark, so I apologize for that, but I've got a mobile nav here towards the top. I've got a tablet nav, which is the one that we were playing with, and then I've got one for a desktop design. And let's say I wanted to use these in my project, but I want to keep this master set of symbols intact. What I would do is come in, and if you'll notice, I've already defined many of these as symbols. Kind of a nice other little silly feature. This is kind of nice because the product manager that's responsible for symbols, his manager, who's the group manager for the workflow for symbols, came up with this methodology for creating groups or containers. One feature request that I think you would intuit from that we also wish was in place is the ability to organize symbols in folders, for example. So my buddy is faking out symbol hierarchy here with, funny little icons and titles here. I do have the ability, just as we're talking about organizing symbols, to come in and look through my content in a few ways. One feature that we added a few releases back is the ability to press and drag symbols into different locations. So you can, as my friend did, organize certain types of symbols together. So he's got components that are here, buttons that are here. You also have the ability to come in and filter. So I can type in the word real and look at all of the symbols I might have defined that have the name real in the symbol name. Alternatively, I can come in and just search within a subset. So I can look just within symbols. Notice this is something I've not realized before. I can also look for anything that's a linked symbol. That's pretty amazing. So we have symbols and linked symbols, which is cool. That's kind of where I'm headed right now. So I want to come in and just show you, if I wanted to work with these navigation elements, I'd probably come on into, let's go back to all assets and go on down to my symbols section. I have some navigation elements that are here. I'm going to come in and just delete one that I saved a little earlier today. And I want to bring these nav elements over. So I'll come in and select them. And I'm just going to hit Command or Control K to add it into the symbol panel here in the Assets panel. I'm going to call that Nav Mobile. I'll do it again with tablet, so I'll select it, Command K. And then I'll do it once again here, Command K. I'm going to assume that I've got this guy grouped. Yes, I do. So with that last one selected, I'm going to call that Nav Desktop. And with the 3 of these now, I want to be a little organized about life, so I'm going to press and drag it down. Kind of stop along the way here. Where did those go? Just here. I'm going to drag them into my nav elements. So I now have 3 new symbols that I've added in. If you are working with linked symbols, one of the things you will forget to do, and then you'll remember because it hurts when you forget, is to save your document in order to make sure that the other files that are sharing that symbol set get the update. So I'm going to remember to do it this time, but I promise I'll probably forget as we go along. So I'm going to pull down under File and go ahead and save this guy out. Now what I want to do is use it in my project. So I'll come into this, we'll just go with the desktop layout here, and I'm going to just copy it onto the clipboard, and I'm going to go back over to my working project. And I'll come on in here, and let's get rid of the ones that we placed. And I'll just come into this first layout, and let's just see how this guy looks in our design. Well, there's a good reason to stick with the right nav bar. I'm going to go back and get that tablet one again. So I'm going to copy it. It's just designed to fit this space a little bit better, and I don't want to noodle with too much design work right now. So I'm going to come in and paste that guy and put it into position. And I'm going to teach you actually kind of another cool trick here. Let me undo that for a minute. So if I come in and I delete that, and let's say I wanted to paste it on multiple objects. I'm going to come in and select 1, 2, 3 of these, but I need to click on the name of the artboard and hold the Shift key to select all 3 artboards. What I want to do is come in and paste that nav bar. So I'm going to hit Command or Control V and paste it. And notice that it pastes it in the center. When you paste from one artboard to another, you can help XD have some intelligence about it by where the object is in its source and destination artboard. So it's pasted in the middle. It's not the end of the world, but let me show you how I could be a little better about that. I'm going to come on out here, and I'm just going to quickly come in and create another artboard. It doesn't really matter exactly its size. And then I'm going to paste that header content here in the upper left-hand corner. And now I'll come back and just give myself a bit of a break here and make that artboard about the size of my object. What this does is gives XD some information about where it might paste content. So because it's going to start out in the upper top or upper left-hand corner, depending on my layout, of my original artboard, when I now copy this to the clipboard and go back to that second instance and select 1, 2, 3 artboards and paste, notice that it pastes to the top. So it's trying to just use some intelligence to guess where I want that paste behavior to take place. But it went on in and it pasted it there towards the top. Now, as I work here, I'm going to also make life a little simpler. Let's just delete all of the symbols that we're not really using any longer. And you'll notice that I've gone in and pasted that navigation element, and I can see it here on the left-hand side, but I'm seeing some interesting details about it. I can see that it is there, and let me try to show you this. If I zoom in, this zoom tool is always a little funny, but if I zoom on in here, maybe, that's being extremely funny. What I'm not able to do is zoom in. Let's try this guy. I can't get in much tighter, and you can only see so much. But what you might notice is that there's a very subtle little icon there that's letting you know that that is a linked symbol, the symbol that I'm working with. and it's my Nav tablet that I just created. So let's say I want to go back and make a change to this. I'm not exactly happy with the way it looks. What I can do is click on any of that linked symbol. I can tell that it's linked because when I click on it, it has the green highlight that lets me know it is a symbol. Any object that's not a symbol is usually highlighted in blue. Symbols are highlighted in green. But when I click on that, in addition to it being highlighted in green, I get a little icon here towards the left that's letting me know that it's a linked symbol. I'm going to stop and read questions because I already stopped. Why is Adobe always using the Mac? Why don't we use Windows? Would your most of users use Mac? So to be honest, the split between Mac and Windows is about 50-50. For Adobe XD, as with some of our other web products, I would say that's true. I always use a Mac because I'm most comfortable with the Mac. This topic came up this week with another customer. If you ask the Google, if you go in and search, you can find a keyboard shortcut table that will show you the keyboard equivalents between Mac and Windows. To a large extent, for the most part, the application is identical between Mac and Windows. The reason why I show it on Mac is that I would fumble around an awful lot more if I did on Windows. I'm just not as familiar with it. But on the team, we definitely test features on both platforms, and we do offer a keyboard lookup table, basically, that will show you differences between Mac and Windows. And I do try to call out those keyboard commands as I'm working. So how's that for a good answer? So the follow-up question on image resolution is there a specific resolution when you're working on UI design for desktop? It depends on your ultimate destination. So let's say you're working on a design and you have an image that's in your library that you're going to use, you can place that image. So let's say, for example, this sparrow image. The image occurs on my phone layout, it's on my tablet, and my desktop layout. When I am ready to export my content, what I can do is go into the Layers panel. This guy's locked, but I think I can do it anyhow. Notice that I've got that background image. I can flag it for export. And when I do that, if I'm working with a developer, let's say, I tag anything that I want to be exported with my design spec, or I could just save out on my local machine if I don't really need to deal with design specs or handing off to a developer separately. Let's say I, as the designer, am handing off those assets. When I go to export them from the file, I can control what resolution they're exported. So 1x, 2x, whether it's a PNG with transparency, JPEG, anything of that sort. So roughly speaking, best practices I would suggest is XD will keep pace with you. Go ahead and put the image at probably the highest resolution you think will be necessary for your ultimate destination. You have control when you export your designs around how those images are scaled and what resolution and file format is supported. So I'd encourage you to kind of look around in our tutorials for things about exporting content and working with design specs and developers. All right, I'm being a little long-winded. I'm going to keep going a bit more. I think I've got a little more runway, but I'm going to spend about 10 or 15 more minutes. Okay, so we were here. Let's see where my train of thought was. We were here, and I wanted to go in and just look at this image that I'm working with. So I'll go back to my symbols library here. And let's say I wanted to make a change to it, and I know that it's linked from a master document, but perhaps I don't know where that master document is. If I right-click here, I now have the ability to edit that in the source document, so the master document. When I click that, it will take me to that source document, and it will highlight the symbol for me that I can come in and make some edits to. I could come in here, let's say, and make a change. Let's say I decided that this word real, this label here, is a little bit too high, and I decide I want to push it down a bit lower. And just for dramatic sake, let's come in and change the color that's being used for the text so it stands out just a little bit more for this example. So I've gone in and made that change, and I want to come in. I'm going to forget to save that symbol, by the way, just to show it off. When I switch back over in my design here, actually, let's go ahead and make us save the change. So if I come in and save it, so I'm going to hit Command or Control S, save out that document, come back into the destination document, and I now get an indicator letting me know that there has been a change to that source document. I can tell because the little icon here in the lower left-hand side for my Assets panel has a bit of a blue dot. If I click on it, so if it were closed, let's say, if I were on the Layers panel, I get the indicator in that dot. When I click on it in the actual Assets panel in the Symbol section, I get a change to the icon. So I know this is incredibly small for you, but the normal symbol that's linked is gray. Whenever there have been changes in that source master document, I get a blue indicator. And I can kind of, let's say I have more than one instance of this guy. Let's go ahead and grab another symbol because I want to show you just a little bit more of the depth here. So if I also came in and grabbed a mobile nav element that I've saved as a symbol, and I come back over here, and I'm just going to place it on the canvas. You'll notice that I've got mobile now here. That's also a linked symbol, and we'll just let it kind of float here foolishly towards the top. But I have more than one symbol that's over here. If I come back over now to my master instance, and again made a change. So let's say I decided that the word real here needs to also move up just a little bit. And I save those changes. If I swing back to my master, or to my instance, my active working project, I can now tell that both of these symbols have changed. If I want to get a sense of what the change will be, I can hover over the object and it will actually give me a thumbnail preview. This is incredibly small, so you can't tell the change because I just changed some subtle little movements there. We're working right now, actually as a team, on showing you the changes when I hover here in the symbol library, actually on the design canvas as well. So that would give you a little bit more visual feedback about what's changed between the new one and the old one. As I work, I can get a sense of that change, and if I want to update the instance here in my working project, I can just click to make that update. Notice that I also get a tooltip letting me know when it was changed and what document was changed that's out there. So I can come in and choose to implement those changes one at a time. I also, if I'm already sure about the changes, or if I kind of do some spot checking and I like them all, I can update all of the instances by clicking Update All there towards the bottom. So those changes are there and they're tied together well. If I go back to my other document, and if I were to, well, let me just explain that this symbol workflow, the shared symbols between the master and then the active projects, it's very smart. So although I'm on the same machine, obviously these two files are talking to one another. If I were working with a colleague, let's say my buddy Ike, and Ike works in a different location than I do, we don't even have a common virtual network or shared network of any sort. What I could do is save my symbol master file in a Dropbox folder and then send Ike a link to share that Dropbox folder. XD will keep track of those two Dropbox folders and will notice if I've made changes and give that same indicator to my buddy Ike whenever he opens up the file, or if the changes are made remotely and he has the file open as I did, he'll be notified of those changes so he can bring them over in that way. A couple other nuances around how symbols work that I think are worth mentioning would be, here, let's go in here. I want to kind of follow my notes a little bit. Okay, so if let's say I'm working and I really don't want to stay tied to that master symbol. I want to do my own variation, and I don't want to keep that connection and be constantly reminded when the master version has changed. I can come to any individual symbol, and if I right-click on it, I can make it a local symbol. What that does is it keeps it as a symbol. If I had 30 of this symbol in my design, so you'll notice in this instance here, I've got 1, 2, 3 different versions of this particular symbol. I can come on in and make it a local symbol. It's going to behave just like it did. It's still going to be tied to all of the symbols on my design canvas, but it's no longer tied to that master symbol. So I have the ability to control that. I also can come to an object and, as you saw earlier in this session, just have it become a graphic element and no longer be a symbol. So to do that, I just come in and ungroup the symbol. So I still keep some control here. As I'm working in my document, I also have the ability to push override. So if I came to this particular symbol that I have on this canvas and I made a change to it, let's say I wanted this to be really cool, and I want it to center instead of left align, and I move that into position, and I wanted that to be the default for this symbol throughout my work. I can come to that context menu and basically push the overrides. It would then make that the master or the original symbol that's referenced as I work throughout my design. Okay, so I did mention that you have the ability to come in and override text and override images. Other things like fill colors, borders, shadows, font style, you would need to do that as a separate symbol as you're working. One of the feature requests we've had is, let's say you define a symbol and it's a button, and that button is obviously going to be a variable width based on the text that's inside the button. You would need to create a separate symbol for larger or smaller buttons at this point, but that's also something we're keeping an eye on, allowing you to vary the scale of a symbol or the width of a symbol, but yet it still remains a master symbol. All right, I think we're looking good on questions. I'm probably going to wrap this guy up at this point. I do want to, let me switch over and just bring up a bit of a reference here. The next topic that we're going to focus on is going to be building more advanced voice prototypes. So for those of you that have tried out the voice prototyping feature, I will be covering this topic. It's going to be on the other side of Thanksgiving here in the States, so on December 5th, also Wednesday at the same time. You are welcome to send me emails if you have questions. Don't spam me, but I'm Dani at adobe.com. If there are things that you are confused about or want to learn more about with the new voice features that we've offered, go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll see if I can cover them when I do cover the topic. When it comes to voice work, we've shown some pretty simple implementations. The one that I'm going to do on December 5th will get into the idea of flow diagrams and decision trees and how you might actually do some usability studies or testing against a voice prototype in a really effective way. So I'm pretty excited to work on that session. Lastly, if you want to watch a replay of this session, you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is Ping Dani, is an easy way to find me. The replays are there. You can also scrub through and get to all the good parts. So feel free to check that out. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Same place, same time on December 5th. Okay, thank you.